Ever looked at your course analytics and thought, people just aren't motivated? I don't think they're committed. Maybe they just don't want it badly enough. I want to pause that assumption for a moment because in most online courses, motivation is not the real problem. And mislabeling it that way changes how you design your course. This is one of the most common blind spots I see with experienced experts. The course doesn't move. Learners don't complete modules. Engagement drops off. And the default explanation becomes they just aren't motivated. It's a neat explanation. It protects the content, it protects the structure, it protects the design. If the issue is motivation, then nothing about the course has to change. But what if that assumption is wrong? Let's take a step back. Most of the learners enrolling in your course are not indifferent. They paid, they signed up, they carved out time. At some point, they cared enough to begin. So when progress slows or stops, the most accurate question isn't, why aren't they motivated? It is, what is this course asking of them? Because motivation is not a stable trait. It fluctuates. People are tired. They're distracted. They're working full time. They're parenting. They're managing competing priorities. Designing for motivated learners is designing for a version of people that doesn't exist consistently in real life. You're not designing for ideal energy. You're designing for tired humans. Here's where this becomes important. When experts assume motivation is the issue, they often respond in predictable ways. They add encouragement. They add accountability reminders. They add gamification. They add urgency. None of those things are inherently bad, but they're solutions to an energy problem. And many online courses don't have an energy problem. They have a cognitive load problem, or a clarity problem, or a progression problem. When learners stall, it's often because the next step feels heavier than they expected. Not because they don't care, but because they don't know where to start. Let me explain what that looks like. A learner finishes a lesson. It makes sense. They understand the idea. But now they're staring at a blank document, or a decision they've never made before, or an open-ended assignment. And they're thinking, okay, what do I actually do now? That moment matters because when effort feels undefined, it feels large. And when it feels large, people delay. Delay looks like low motivation from the outside, but internally, it feels like uncertainty. This is the part that's hard to see from inside of your own expertise. When you know a subject deeply, you underestimate the effort required to take the first step. You forget what it feels like to not know where to begin. So you design your course assuming if they understand this, they'll move. But understanding reduces confusion. It doesn't reduce friction. Friction is what tired humans respond to. When friction is high, motivation has to be high to compensate. When friction is low, moderate motivation is enough. That's a design issue, not a personality issue. This is also why courses often feel exciting at the beginning and heavy in the middle. The beginning is structured, clear, linear. But as learners move deeper, the decisions get bigger. The tasks involve more, and the support becomes less visible. So progress slows. And instead of asking, where did the structure thin out? We ask, why did their motivation drop? That question sends you in the wrong direction. Another layer here is emotional risk. Many courses ask learners to try something new publicly, to post, to share, to publish, to make decisions with consequences. That's not just cognitive work, it's emotional exposure. And exposure requires psychological safety. If that safety isn't built intentionally into the experience, hesitation follows. Again, from the outside, it can look like low motivation. From the inside, feels like risk. Let's zoom out. Motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls with sleep, stress, confidence, context. If your course only works when learners feel highly motivated, it's fragile. Designing for real people means assuming they will be tired, they will be distracted, they will be uncertain, they will not reread instructions 3 times. When your course depends on ideal behavior, it quietly excludes most humans. And that's not a marketing problem, it's a design assumption. This doesn't mean learners have no responsibility. It means responsibility alone doesn't create progress. Structure does, clarity does, manageable next steps do. When learners know exactly what to do next, forward movement requires less willpower. When the next step is ambiguous, motivation has to carry a lot of weight, and motivation is inconsistent. So the pattern repeats. Learners stall, creators assume motivation, creators add encouragement. The structure remains unchanged, and nothing fundamentally shifts. If this is landing, I want you to hear something clearly. When learners slow down, it does not automatically mean they don't care. It may mean the design is asking more than it appears to. It may mean the learning path requires decisions that haven't been made visible. It may mean the workload feels undefined. Those are design realities, not character flaws in the learner or you as the expert. This is one of the most important mindset shifts in course design. Stop designing for the highly motivated version of your learner. Start designing for the tired, distracted, real version. Because if the real version can move forward, the motivated version will fly. And if only the motivated version can move forward, most learners will quietly disappear. If you're watching this and thinking, I've definitely assumed motivation was the issue, that's not a mistake. It's a common and understandable interpretation. It's just incomplete. Once you see this distinction, it changes the questions you ask. Instead of, how do I motivate them? You start asking, what might feel heavy here? Where might they hesitate? What assumptions am I making about their energy? Those are design questions, and they're much harder to answer from the inside of your own expertise. Because when something feels obvious to you, it's hard to imagine it feeling heavy to someone else. That's why designing for real people often requires perspective. Not more effort, not more encouragement. Perspective. If this video helped you rethink how you're interpreting learner behavior, take that seriously. You're not dealing with lazy learners. You may be dealing with friction you can't see yet. And that's exactly the kind of work we focus on inside Confident Course Design. Not adding more content, not adding more motivation, but examining how the experience feels from the learner side. You're not doing this wrong. You're just seeing a deeper layer. Thanks for being here. See you in the next video.